Welcome to Becoming the Ultimate Coach. I'm the Jock, this is the Doc, and today we are continuing our 4-part series on talking about different client types. And today we are on Extreme Eddie. So Extreme Eddie, like All In Amy, is fun to train, but you have to be careful with Extreme Eddie. You got to be careful with Extreme Eddie doing too much and getting injured. You got to be careful with Extreme Eddie being extreme all in and being extreme all out. So Dr. J, when it comes to Extreme Eddie, what do we need to be thinking about as coaches?
Well, as you highlighted, there's just that all-in extreme, and Extreme Eddie is going to be very attracted to the how far can I push myself? What can I prove to myself? And it's always great to have like personal records you're trying to break or things that you want to show yourself that you can do or challenge yourself. But what Extreme Eddie tends to do is get the high off the extremeness and not look at it as an ongoing process that he can sustain. So that's going to be this big roller coaster of going extreme, now I'm all out, and then I'm going to hit extreme again. And so we really have to have that conversation, figure out what parts we can let feel extreme, whether it's crushing them in the workout, but with the nutrition changes or the lifestyle changes, there's more moderation, or where we can get that balance for him where he can feel like he's really pushing himself, but we're also going to help him get sustained results.
Yeah, and what I talked about earlier about this Extreme Eddie, and you got to be careful with not getting Extreme Eddie injured, is because like sometimes we think of like, okay, my personal goals, what I'm doing right now, like I like to do Olympic lifting, or I'd like to see what my 1 rep max on my back squat is, or something like that. But if we take that same translation over to Extreme Eddie, we have to be careful because Extreme Eddie might not have the background that we have, might not have the time built up to us to handle that. So if we're constantly chasing that and he wants more and more and more, there might be a day where he just gets hurt. And if they're hurt, that's a bad, it's not good for us. Like, it's not a good reputation when they're talking to their friends, like, oh, what happened? It's like, well, I was training with Scott, and we were trying to figure out how much I could bench press or how much I could squat, and we got injured that way. So even though these are tempting like clients to really push hard, because us as coaches, we like pushing people, and that's fun, we got to be careful on like what avenues we're doing it. It's kind of going back to like, I remember at one point in my career, people were like, well, machines are bad. Well, a lot of that just depends. Like I do like doing barbell back squats with people and deadlifts and push press and stuff like that. But like one of the most recent pieces of equipment we got for our gym is just a seated horizontal leg press. And it's not even my favorite kind of leg press, but it's easy for people to get in. My people that have kind of low back issues, it gives some support there. So it's a way that you could put an Extreme Eddie on, you could push him really hard and push those legs really hard, but his back's really safe. There's a much less likely chance for injury. So thinking about that, like in the gym with Extreme Eddie, but also what he's doing outside.
Exactly.
He's one of these guys that's like, okay, well, if I'm working out with you, what if I get a run in that day? Or what if I work out extra on my own? Or like, how do I do this more? How do I get this faster? And so sometimes with Extreme Eddie too, I'm really trying to balance out the physical things that he's doing. Like I'm excited that he wants to be very active and very involved, but it might be like, okay, go try this yoga class. So it's a way that he can work in some flexibility, which will help balance out the strength training we're doing, but it's also a way he can be active and not overdo it so we can have a good long-term fit for him.
Well, exactly, and even with the yoga, let's run with that, is crushing him or helping him feel extreme is just about it feels like a lot or it feels hard. It doesn't have to be, like you said, like these massive amounts of weights or these things that can injure. But if yoga's maybe just doesn't, we know that yoga is hard. It's a really amazing workout. But some people are just like, it's too slow for me or I don't. Well, you put them in a heated yoga room and they're going to feel pretty crushed at the end of it, and hopefully has gotten some good yoga out of that. So if it's physiologically okay for them to do, just thinking of different ways to add some, like that was a lot, or something like that on there. And again, just trying to help balance that. And then also asking questions like, why do you love these hard approaches? If you do a 75 hard, if you do something like, what do you love about that? And if it's just mixing it up, and what they really like is something just new or something that they haven't tried or in a way that they've never tried it before, and they just love that learning or that challenge or pushing themselves, I think we can come up with a lot of really interesting way, even sometimes for some people, not everybody, but even cooking. Have you ever done this? Have you ever figured that out? So how can we get some of that intensity, that challenge, and that also just feeling like I've peaked at something, and then even creating stages of those peaks so we can have lots of those throughout the journey.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I'll play around with this with some of my clients on teaching them a new skill to do. Like, I got one guy, like we're learning how to do double unders, and it's something that it's mentally, it's physically, it's something he can practice on his own. But I don't have to worry about him like getting hurt doing that because he's really not that great at it, so he can't do that much of it.
Yeah.
I'll even play around with some of like they want to learn some of the basic like kettlebell or Olympic lifts or something like that. And again, like I'm very cautious with people on certain movements, make sure that they have the mobility and they have the good base with that. But at the same time, like giving them a new skill. They're usually not very good at it, and they can build up. They have the time of doing those lighter weights on just kind of chasing that. So with those people that are very extreme, if you can kind of give them something to chase and kind of distract them as you're building all those other fundamental pieces, because that's the big thing of like, okay, Extreme Eddie comes in and he wants to be like shredded kind of deal, and so okay, cool, like. You and I both know that's more the nutrition, that's more that's doing outside the gym, but at the same time, they're pushing themselves really hard. So if we can kind of distract them and also make sure that they're getting those other fundamental pieces down, like they're going to have the best long-term fix. And really the other side of this too is really setting these people up. So Extreme Eddie is very extreme right now with the fitness, but in a couple of months, he might be extreme with something else, some other hobby.
Yeah.
So it's more of setting that success up of like, we're going to make this progress forward, but like, what does this look long term? And some of that's just a mindset shift. And when we think of mindset, that's not something like you can say once and be done. It's like you have to like slowly build that over time and then make Eddie think it's his idea later on.
Exactly. And especially if you're doing some sort of behavior coaching, you have a separate session that you're not on the floor having this conversation.
Yeah.
You can also talk about like, do you feel like you're just like this intense about everything? Are you extreme with your finances? Do you spend a ton of money and then save a ton? You're probably like, no, not really. So, okay, where in your life can you do those things? And even educating a little bit, like this might not be the area to keep doing this because maybe two reasons. One is your point of burnout, injury, and just sort of that roller coaster that over time creates some challenges for the body to really kind of feel successful and good long term. And so letting them know that you're not saying no, but you're educating them, as you said, over time about thinking about this slightly different in some different ways.
Yeah, and with this being January, we're going to see some of these people coming in. So making sure that we're kind of taking the step back, we're addressing that, we're giving those pieces for them to kind of build that long-term foundation, which is going to help, that client with their long-term goals, but us as a business too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the new year really will set people in that kind of like, I got this. Plus, let's just be honest, the fitness, the health industry, or just random marketers will push all of these like, this is your year and this is your, and so understanding that sometimes that gets behavioral momentum moving forward. In other words, that's the impetus to show up at the gym or talk to a trainer or get some support doing something. And it's our job then to put that in perspective around their lifestyles and their personalities.
Yeah, and so this is what I talk about as a coach. Like there's the art and the science of this. And so really the art of this is like you have someone coming in, this extreme person, which is fun because then you can push them in a lot of different ways. But we also not only have to push them in different ways, we have to pull them back. And really with that, their likelihood of getting injury is going to drop down. Their likelihood of burnout is going to drop down. And really that's going to help them as a person in their overall fitness goals. And you growing your business and your reputation because that's part of this game too. So when you're dealing with this Extreme Eddie, use that time off the gym floor, really establish what their goals are, really figure out what's the best for them, not only short term, but long term, and figure out when you need to push and when you need to pull back. So until next time.